Hey everybody, and welcome to another color along. Today I'm going to be using Magicfly just because I'm going for this autumn picture and I think this has the perfect palette for it. It has a great selection of browns, which I think are going to really pull out fall in the picture. It also has a lot of oranges, which are really nice because I'm going for again, like a pumpkin spice latte, a very fall picture, and I think this is going to do the job. So if you're new to my channel, I try to keep my color alongs, under a certain time length. I don't have a definite time length, but what I do is I edit them and try to take out as much as the monotony as possible. And that could be anything from sorting through my pencils or the in-between coloring parts or just little things that will add up after some time. And if I'm doing something in repetition, unless I'm pointing it out, I might skip something. So like here I have several pumpkins, but I'm not going to force you to watch me to color every single pumpkin because I'm going to do them all the exact same way. I am curious though if you are new, because I know I get a lot of the same great responses and wonderful comments from, it feels like the same people who I know is a minority amount of you compared to overall. So I'm very aware that these videos aren't as popular as like the, my review videos, my pencil appreciation videos, but I do like to change it up. And the truth is at some point I'm going to run out of pencils to review. So I've got to have some kind of backup plan or else I'll fade into the night and not have any more videos. And frankly, I like spending this kind of time with you. And coloring along with you is, I think, one of my favorite ways to do that. I know we're not physically together, but I know when I'm coloring these, I know somewhere out there, could be in another state, another country, there's somebody enjoying these images, sitting along with me and coloring. And I don't know, that just fills me with a warm little fuzzy, and I like that about these color alongs. So though not my most popular videos, I will keep doing these because they're fun. So I would like, if you're new, to leave a comment, and if you're not new, don't leave a comment. That's not what I want at all. I want you all to leave a comment. But I am very curious to see who is new here, specifically on these color alongs. And on that note, this, if you're curious, last week's video that I posted was me drawing this. So I have a feeling a few of you have returned because you sat through that whole video to watch me create this picture that you are now coloring with me. If you don't have this, swing over to my Kofi page and grab it. It is free. Donations are always welcome, but I just think it's more fun when I know you have the ability to do a color along where I'm not saying, hey, the only way we can color along is if you go buy something. So I always try to have my color alongs at the ready for you. And on top of that, I try to always have them free. So here I've done my pumpkin in 3 oranges. I got my base orange, which is like, a bright, true orange. I have my light apricot, almost like a yellow, a creamy yellow, and then I have my dark orange. And because I have them on in enough layers, I'm going over them with a mid-range blender. This is the Grizaye. I like this one a lot. It's a big go-to of mine, but you can see how it's really pushing the colors together. It's still keeping my highlights. It's not gonna blow them out because this isn't such an aggressive blender, but at the same time, it is aggressive enough that it is very, very smoothly, very gracefully pushing my darks into my mid, into my light oranges. And it's gonna give that three-dimensional look for this pumpkin, that bold look that we're going for when coloring objects like this. And now that I've completed the first pumpkin, I'm going into the second pumpkin, but I am going to edit out quite a bit of this one. You can see already that I'm jumping around just because I am doing this in the exact same way I did the first one. I'm adding the darks in the crevices and in the areas that the light isn't so dominant, and then I'm going over with my base, my bright base orange. And then on top of that, I'm going to go into it with that light orange. And I'm going to keep working these. I'm going to try to put a lot of layers in it, going over each of these, making sure the darks are darks, making sure the lights are lights. And then I'm going to go over this with a mid-range blender. I think Grizaye is perfect for this. Any mid-range will do. I just really like Grizaye. So I'm going to push this over the colors. And as you can see, it's already giving them that creamy look. It's just aggressive enough that it's going to fill in those light spots with the orange. It's going to push them into the orange. So you'll still see where the highlights are, and it's aggressive enough that it is going to get rid of a lot of the pencil strokes, but not so aggressive, because you can see here, you can still kind of see those pencil strokes. Some people like to remove those where you don't see any strokes at all, and honestly, I kind of like that organic look. I like it where you see a little bit of the fact that this is color pencil. Okay, here I'm going to show you something that's kind of fun. I'm going into it now with the dark orange, a burnt orange if you will, and I'm really popping out the darks, because once I blended it, I lightened a lot of my darks. But you could always go into it one more time with your dark pencil, even after you blended it. So what I'm going to show you is what this looked like before and then after. So, because you can't really see it while you're doing it, but see how it's dark here? Now look, before you don't see the darks, after you do, and then before. So you could see that does make a big difference. So once you're done doing that, once you're done blending it, don't ever be afraid to go into it one more time with your darkest colors and really pop out those accents that you're trying to push. And it'll really, really give your objects form and dimension. So to the few of you who actually joined me last week and watched me create and draw this beautiful fall latte picture, I pulled up a reference and it was some pomegranates. So that's what I ended up adding. So I still have that in mind when I'm coloring this. I thought, oh yeah, it'd be nice. I could turn these into fun little pomegranates. But you know, honestly, if I had just done these circles and I wasn't going to make them pomegranate, I could see making them white, put some grays on them to kind of pop them out. To be nothing particular, just some white objects in there, I think would look really nice. Here I am using a aggressive blender. This is a Blick. The reason I'm using this aggressive one is, if you notice, I only use that really dark brick red and then that lighter, that true red. And I'm using the aggressive blender because I'm going to push these reds into that highlighted area. So instead of leaving it too bright, I'm able to turn my red into that pink without actually using pink. It's a choice. I could use pink, but sometimes I just like leaving these big open white areas with the intent of coloring them with the blender. And you'll see here I'm going to do it again. So now I'm making it pink by using the colors around, and I'm also able to keep it as a highlight. Now this is a little different for me. This color palette didn't really offer the color I wanted to do, like this deadish stalk coming out of the pumpkin. So I'm going over the whole thing with this ochre, and that's going to lay down a foundation for when I do blend it. It's going to pull that yellow out, and I'm going over it with a olive green. And when those two colors come together, I think it will give me that color I'm looking for. And usually, like, I'm not one to take a yellow and a blue and make green. I'll just grab my green. But this was a very specific fall brown color that I was looking for. So all I'm doing right now is I'm just working this darker color, and you can kind of see where the textures are starting to come out. So it's not so flat anymore. Now you can kind of see the twists and the grooves, making it look more like a natural vine coming out, where it does have that depth and it does have those twists and those turns in it. So I'm just basically adding texture where there is none. And then again, I'm going over it one more time with a really deep forest, you know, almost like a black color, but it's one step away from being a dark green into black. And I'm just touching up little parts here and there. And again, I'm really relying not on what I'm doing now, I'm relying on what I'm about to do with the blender. And then that's really gonna make this thing look like it's one solid color and give it that really fun look. Because all these light colors I'm using, the blender is 100% gonna pull those out. Okay, so here I've sharpened my Thorntons blender. This is right between a soft blender and a mid-range, so it's the perfect blender for what I'm trying to do here. I want to push these colors around so that that dark green goes very smoothly. There's a nice gradient into the lighter areas. And I also want to create a brand new color where these greens are hitting these ochres. But at the same time, I want to keep those highlights. If I were to use something like a Master's Touch or a Kalour, it's just going to turn into one pasty green, and that's not what I'm going for here. I want to maintain the texture on this. So you can see right there how smooth the transition is. It's like this perfect gradient into that dark olive green, that forest green, into the ochre, giving it one nice textured look. And now we have the vine I originally wanted. And this color just didn't exist anywhere in this set's palette, so I was able to create it by using a multitude of greens and yellows. So here once again, I'm going to layer some colors. I'm using this ochre, and then I'm going to use a brighter green and then a darker green. This color palette has some good, really good autumn colors, but what I'm looking for is that dead leaf color, that end of the season hanging in there color, and it just doesn't have that. So I am layering these. I'm coloring these with the specific goal of going over them with my blender. So I want to pull these lighter colors through this darker color that I'm laying down now, and it's going to give me that desired look. At least I hope it's going to give me that desired look where I want it to have some greens in it, but also where that yellow, that yellowish brown is slowly peeking through. So I'm going to go into it now with a Blick blender. This is definitely more of an aggressive blender. And the reason I'm using this one is I'm not trying to gradient my colors. I'm simply trying to blend them. I'm trying to get those bottom colors to come through the top colors and just have a really, really nice mixture of all these layers I just put down. I'm going to avoid that white section because I don't want to blow it out completely. And I'm going to go over that specific section with a softer blender just so I can keep that highlight while still softening it. And what you see me doing here is I'm just going over it with a brown, like a true brown, trying to get that look of the early stages of being a dead leaf where it's just creeping in. And right here, this is a soft blender, this is the Caran, and it's allowing me to go over the white parts without completely blowing them out, without making them disappear. So you could see from back here, you definitely see where that highlight was, but it's not as bright, and I was able to pull my greens on top of it. It lets me maintain where the glare is, but at the same time, it lets me really smooth out my colors next to it. And for me personally, that's the best time to use a soft blender, when you're trying to keep those highlights while smoothing the colors around it. Now here, because I'm adding the brown first, last time I blended it, then put the browns, I'm putting the browns on first. And because of that, I'm gonna lower my aggression on my blender to a Thorntons. Because I don't want that brown to completely melt into those greens. I want the brown to stay at the very top of the leaf and the very base of the leaf. So I'm gonna go over it with a softer blender just to change it up. And because I did my layering differently. It's not meant to confuse you. It's one of those things I'm always pushing myself, trying to see what works best in the world of blenders, and then I could report that back to you. Or it's just a matter of, like I said, at the end of the day, it's one of those things. It's more than one way to skin a cat. That's a horrible expression. It's more than one way to love on a cat. You can give them chin scratches or head scratches. So that's a much better expression. So to be clear on this, I'm just using two browns. Normally I do a base color, a lighter color than that, and a darker color than that. And it's funny because when I looked at the palette overall, I saw all these browns and I thought, wow, this is a perfect color palette. This is a great set to do this picture. And as I start picking individual colors, I realize this is not such a great set at all. Not a big deal, I'm gonna make it work. The blender is our friend as far as changing one color into another color. So those little white spots, you see me covering them here with the blender. It's essentially like using a lighter version of this color. It takes those pigments and pushes them into the whiter areas, making a pastel. So when we back up and look at the cinnamon stick after it's been colored, it's gonna look fine. It's gonna look like everything else on this page. It's just a different way of doing it when you have less colors to choose from. I saved the froth for last. It's one of those things I kind of enjoy doing. It's always a little different. I feel like I've colored this kind of stuff quite a bit, and it's what I like about it is there's so many different ways to go about doing it. So if I wanted it to look like a toasted marshmallow, I would just add this ochre color towards the top and then some grays towards the bottom to make it look like shaded white, like there was the cream color. But I want this to look more like almost like a cinnamon froth, where there's not going to be that much white. I'm still going to leave a lot of white areas, so when I go into it with the blender, it's going to push the yellows, making those yellows even lighter on top of it. But I just want to give it that frothy, creamy look. And almost like this broth has a good cinnamon flavor to it. And it's just, I don't know, it's just one of those fun textures I like doing, making the little bubbles and making the little soft areas and where the crevices are. It's just, I've always enjoyed this. And here we go with a last minute change. I had every intent of making these little discs on top, these little chips were going to be chocolate. I was almost picturing like a dark chocolate, little flakes on top, or even like a cinnamon color. But as I was coloring the yellow, I thought, you know what, let's change this up. Put a little color here so the top of this picture, the top of the image is going to match the bottom with those pumpkins down there. So I'm just doing a darker orange and I'm going over it with the same light pumpkin yellow. I'm going to use this lighter orange as my blender and just push it into the darker orange. And I think this is going to kind of brighten up the picture as opposed to the browns giving it more of an earth tone. It's just going to change the whole feel to it, I think. And here I'm going under each of these little flakes with a burnt umber, basically the same kind of dark color I used on that cinnamon stick. I'm going to put it on the bottom right of each of these little orange flakes, and that's going to give the illusion that the light is hitting them from the top left. And when you kind of back up, it's not a big thing, but when you kind of back up and have an overall look, it just kind of pops them off the page. It gives them a little more depth, like they're really sitting on that frothing. You can see them there. They don't look so flat anymore. And it's a little thing to do, but it really changes your picture. I always struggle with the color I'm going to make the cat, and I think it's because I can picture it being so many things. It's not from lack of options, it's from having too many options. So this is another last minute change. My first thought was to make it a white cat just because it was surrounded by all that froth. I knew I didn't want to make it orange because that'd have been, too much orange. And I didn't think I wanted to make it gray either because that had muted the picture too much. So I wanted something with a little bit of color. So last minute changed to this calico, and I think it's going to work really well because the colors are going to be soft, but at the same time, they're going to be dominant enough to make him kind of pop off the page and still be the star of the show. I know this part's going to be tricky here. When I want to blow out these colors, especially for doing whites, I use something way more aggressive, like a Kalour or a Master's Touch. The issue is, especially here in this really tight section, if I'm going to use something that aggressive, like a Kalour, I've got to be really careful of these ink lines. If my blender hits the black lines on his mouth or next to the cup, the rim of the cup, it will smear that black into the picture, and it looks muddy and messy all of a sudden. It doesn't look like a soft white, it looks like smeared ink. So it's just one of those things you got to be cautious of when using blenders that are really aggressive. And here you see me changing it up again. This is a Master's Touch. I used a Kalour the first time on the white. This is just me playing around with it. I could have stuck with the Kalour. It's very, very minimal as far as the difference between those two. But again, I'm always playing around just to see what feels best, and always pushing blenders as far as I can. But yeah, I jumped to a Master's Touch just because. And you see me here drawing these Kofi lines, like I actually drew on the rim of the cup. I should have put that in the drawing. It will be in your drawing. There's a couple of things I did, and that's why I usually always color my pictures first, because as I'm drawing them, sometimes I don't catch things, but when I go to color them, I realize, oh, like at the top of the cinnamon stick, I had to add a line with my color pencil, the same way I just added this line on the rim of the cup with this Kofi. I already did that on your version, so when you go to grab yours, again, it's over on Kofi, so go pick it up when you get a chance. But when I find those mistakes here, I got to instantly go and make notes to correct them, so you don't have to draw in certain lines or do certain things. I want this to be as smooth as I possibly can for you. But that's all this is. It's a learning process for me. I know I'm going to make mistakes as I go. I just got to remember to correct them for your version. You know, as I color this Kofi, or whatever this is, I'm imagining it being Kofi coming out the cup because you got this fat little cat sitting in there. As I color that, I wonder if I would have made the cup itself like a light brown or really light orange, like, you know, one of those, just those cafe disposable cups. If I'd have made the cup a color, then I could have had this Kofi coming out. I could have had it like a cream, almost like a melted whipped cream coming out the top, and I think that might have maybe looked a little better than what I have here, just because now I'm dealing with a lot of white. So I'm definitely going to be putting a background in here. And on that note, the background I pictured being a really soft baby blue into some yellows, or maybe even like a light green. But because I want to connect the running theme of these orange pumpkins at the bottom and the orange froth at the top, I decided to go with that same light orange, that yellowish color that I've been using in all of these items. And I think this will tie it together. So I'm just going to touch it up a little bit here and a little bit there. So as this music plays, it's going to take us into the end of the video. I wanted to say thank you to everyone who has joined me again. I'm so glad you like these color alongs, because again, I like spending this time with you. Next week I'll probably do another review video. I know according to my views and likes, people like those way more than these, but I'm going to do another one of those, maybe two of those, and I will jump back to these color alongs later. And I know the drawing video I did creating this wasn't nearly as popular, but I know some of you enjoyed it, so I will do another one of those again. I might not do them as often, but I will do another one of those again, I promise. So as I wrap this thing up, I'm just going to put a few more layers down. I just got to give thanks one more time. I really, really do appreciate not only y'all joining me, but you making it this far into the video. And thank you to everyone who leaves comments. I read them all, and I try to reply to every single one. If I don't, it's simply because I didn't see it. So y'all have an amazing week, and even more so, have an amazing weekend. Get out there and enjoy this weather.